Hello, this is Diné here with another video helping you to conquer your feelings of loneliness. While many are enjoying the benefits of flexibility when it comes to family time, creating a workspace that allows them to focus, and more freedom when it comes to time management, there is one aspect of the work from home opportunity that is often overlooked: loneliness. The reality is that we're not brought here to suffer. But with the limited human mindset, suffering is inevitable, as it brings forth emotions like fear, anger, inadequacy, and loneliness, just to name a few. Although we are so much more than that, unfortunately, many remote workers are suffering the feeling of loneliness all alone, and it remains a secret they keep to themselves. And it's not just about missing out on the after work outings and what your colleagues are chatting about outside of work, but a gradual fading of connection. That feeling that you are alone may exist because no one can resonate with what your schedule is like or seriously see you and how things are going for you. If any of this speaks to you, you are actually not alone. There are literally millions of people, as reported in a study conducted by Buffer on the state of remote work, where it found that 1 in 5 remote workers report loneliness as their biggest struggle. It may sound like a small number, but that's millions of people dealing with this struggle. Being able to tap into our innate goodness and bring in useful resources during those lonely times is most beneficial. But it can be challenging when you're so overconsumed with your feelings. In this video, I'll be talking about what sources believe makes loneliness so common, how and why you should reach out for help, and practical tips on what you could do to feel connected again. Let's first talk about what loneliness is and what it's not. Remote loneliness, first off, is not about being alone. There are many remote workers that enjoy working from home full-time and feel very content and would never give up the opportunity. The feeling of loneliness, however, is a distressing feeling of feeling disconnected, feeling distant and unseen by others. But the symptom, as you would imagine, can show up differently from one person to the next. For some, it's going hours or even days without a real-time conversation. Some feel isolated from informal team dynamics or inside jokes. Some is questioning if their work is being valued since they're not getting the same feedback that they did when they were in the office. And there's a feeling of missing out on the casual affirmation that exists in a shared space. The disconnect, however, isn't just emotional. If prolonged, it could play a toll on your mental health and/or ultimately your physical health. It could lead to a decrease in your motivation as you work from home, which will impact your productivity as well. It's important to be aware of this so that you're not blaming yourself as these symptoms arise, but realize that if these symptoms come up as you work from home, it's a flaw in your remote work lifestyle and/or mindset where subconsciously flexibility, focus, and freedom is more of a factor than connection and support. Remaining aware and cognizant of this and working towards prevention by setting up a system to combat feeling lonely is not a sign of weakness or being needy, but a sign of wisdom. Unfortunately, however, some find it challenging to build that system for loneliness prevention and find it hard to ask for help. There are a few reasons why. For one, there's the stigma that If I admit that I'm lonely, others may think that I'm weak, needy, or not resilient. More so amongst their professional counterparts, who they feel they need to show that they're capable of doing the work. Secondly, the ability to work autonomously is something that gets rewarded, and we want to encourage the work ethic that shows a person is reliable and they don't need to be micromanaged. But that leaves workers feeling the pressure to get it all done on their own. That normalizes independence and creates a mindset that there will be consequences if you're asking for help. Just know that if you're struggling to overcome those feelings of loneliness, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of working remotely. One doesn't have to do with the other. Most of the time, there's something subconscious associated with the lonely feeling. Third of all, we are the people in our work environment and need to pick up on our own cues. In a physical office setting where you're seeing the same people every day, it's easy for them to pick up on your cues that your mood is changing or that your body language is different than how you usually interact. Then they may provide support and check in, bringing that awareness to you. When you're working remotely, you have to remain mindful and aware of your mental state on your own because it could be hard to see it when you're in it. Lastly, many remote workers are just not sure how they should go about handling these feelings or what their options are. Is it something I should use a wellness benefit towards? Could HR help with this? Or is it worthy of a therapist's time or visit? Just knowing what the first step should be could be a challenge if you're not even sure what the options are. These are all valid and understandable reasons because of the fact that we don't want to be looked at as if we're different. Because the reality is, we are social beings and don't want to feel outcasted. But the oxymoron is that bravery is required to stand up and say you'll be different. Asking for help takes courage. It's not a flaw, but a form of strength. And personally, there's an attraction to those individuals who are vulnerable enough to ask for what they need to bring balance into their lives. Being comfortable with being different is something that I struggled with for a long time. But being around a community of people who are open and honest motivated me to give attention and acknowledge parts of myself that I was hesitant to deal with. But I learned that the things that's really worth it isn't always easily accessible. So I have good news. Getting help regarding your feelings of loneliness is not as complicated as you may think. Help is out there. And although some of you may feel overwhelmed by the feeling of loneliness, and it may feel just too heavy to overcome, getting help doesn't have to involve medication, months of therapy, or require you to be diagnosed with a mental illness. You have options when it comes to getting support. So being aware of what they are and making a choice as to what feels right for you is the first step that can have a big impact on your well-being. Working with the Conquer Loneliness expert. The goal is not to change the situation you're in, meaning it's not about getting you to change your external environment or situation where you're no longer working from home or pushing you to attend more social gatherings. Unless, of course, that's what you want for yourself. But the goal is to get you to change your mindset. Change the way you're looking at things, meaning you're working from home, but you're now enjoying your work from home environment and opportunity. Or instead of changing your desire to be around others, you actually enjoy being with yourself, which will ultimately get you feeling comfortable being around others. And those are just examples. But of course, if your goal was to overcome social anxiety so you could feel more comfortable around others, then at the subconscious level is where the shift would be made on how you see yourself and feel in social gathering. But the point is, the work is done internally instead of making external changes. But outside of that, there are some practical ways to approach your situation. So, what are some practical options when it comes to support or combating feeling lonely? Getting professional support to help you work through those feelings of loneliness can make a huge difference in how you're feeling. This could look like therapy, counseling, or coaching. With therapy or counseling, you could check with your employer if you're working for a company or organization to see if they offer employee assistance program, also known as EAP, or something similar where your therapy sessions are covered through your health benefits. In just a few sessions, you should notice a difference. Working with a coach, you would generally work on your mental wellness towards emotional resilience, work-life balance, and or goal setting. Peer support is an option you may want to entertain if you're looking to get help around your feelings of loneliness. You can find peer support groups in person, or even joining remote groups, forums, or Slack communities, if that's your preference to connect. So you can connect with people who are also specifically dealing with feelings of loneliness. Peer support can also come from coworkers whom you trust, especially if you're aware that they too are experiencing feeling lonely. Just 5 minutes a day of honesty can relieve a lot of pressure and be emotionally nourishing if it's someone you already have a relationship with. Also, having a daily system or practice in place is helpful when it comes to reaching out for help, to combating those feelings of loneliness. Engaging in some virtual co-working platforms or participating in some work with me sessions will help you to remain productive and focused as it supports you implementing time management strategies like Pomodoro or time blocking. These can help you to feel encouraged and accountable while giving you that sense of connection or peer-to-peer coworker support so you remain motivated. Adding in some coffee breaks or team games to get some socializing in during the day will help to build bonds and fight feeling isolated. And most importantly, the daily practice of checking in with yourself, being your best friend. The key is to be honest with yourself. No one is around, so tune in to how you're feeling, realizing that taking a few moments to sit with yourself creates that internal bond, with the goal being to give space for your subconscious underlying need to surface as you ask yourself, what do you really need? Now let's take a look on whether our work environments or culture plays a part in remote loneliness, as this forms a collective belief within the workplace. Companies or organizations that give their employees the opportunity to work remotely can take part in supporting that work from home experience and making sure that it's healthy. Whether you're a team leader, an HR representative, or a well-meaning coworker, you could support the workplace connection to combat remote loneliness. If you're asking, how could I help or contribute to the cause? Well, here are a couple of ways. Make the topic of loneliness feel like a normal conversation instead of a topic that involves some embarrassment. Take a few moments during your regular meetings to check in on the emotional well-being of the remote workers. Utilizing the team chats can be useful to share resources if they need it, because the truth is we all have something that we're dealing with. Not necessarily meaning that we're all dealing with a mental illness, but there could be things that are affecting our general mental health. So, giving others the space to acknowledge that it's okay not to always be okay normalizes the conversation, giving space to open up when there's a real need to. Create an environment where teammates don't feel like the only time they're connecting is when it's time to check in on a deliverable, but they're checking in just to check in. Encouraging connections where they meet virtually with their cameras on when it's appropriate, but remaining respectful when cameras are off. Making it a place where they can sense that it's not all about productivity, but small good deeds and progress are also acknowledged. Doing little things throughout the day where colleagues are interacting using Slack threads, daily polls, gifts, or even emojis encourages connections and fosters a sense of casualty. What may help also is if new employees are paired with remote buddies, so they won't start off feeling alone and isolated, secluded and distant. This will give them a chance to create some internal bonding with colleagues who are on the integration journey as well. Knowing what support exists and what options are available makes it more likely that someone would reach out for help, especially if they know how to access it confidentially. It's already difficult as it is to deal with whatever challenges a person may be having. So, inviting mental health professionals in to do webinars or drop in office hours, providing the necessary information, takes away that extra step of doing the research on their own. It also serves as a good time to promote that there's a special event coming up and give a chance for employees to mark their calendars as time being set aside where they're focusing on information that pertains to their well-being. If you are someone who's experiencing that feeling of loneliness, it's important for you to understand that you are not broken or failing in some way. You are not alone. Although some are finding joy and enjoying the flexibility and freedom that is offered when you work from home, sometimes there is that isolation. As Bell Hooks said, rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion, but it won't be possible for you to get that communion and support unless you voice and express what you're feeling. I'm not saying it's easy, which is why the act of speaking up is an act of strength. When you're making the choice to seek support and choose connection, especially if it's outside your comfort zone. The great thing is that there are options, so you can choose which first step is easiest for you. Whether that's reaching out to a professional, messaging a coworker, or starting a group chat on the topic of loneliness to strike up a conversation and see what responses you get. Creating an open forum for feedback. Whatever you decide, every and any small act you take is a step towards being more connected. We are not meant to work or live in isolation. We are social beings. So even as remote workers, the desire to have support, care, and community would be no less just because you're not in an office setting. Remote work is not just about independence, but honoring the strength of interdependence. Because when one does well, we can all do well. I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.